This podcast is brought to you by Connect First Credit Union.
It's Mother's Day, and we thought we might do something completely different for Mother's Day. One of the, I think, inspirations to me over the years has been my mom. You know, she was an entrepreneur. She worked ridiculously long hours. She inspired me in so many ways. She sacrificed. And, you know, a lot of people have this idea around business owners or entrepreneurs, and somehow like they become rich or super successful, and that it's just easy, almost like it's not a big deal. And it is a really big deal. And it's one of the reasons we have so many entrepreneurs on the show, What's Next Alberta, because we know how hard it is to build something great and to build something that is worthy of attention of the public, and that inspires people to work at their organizations, that generate, have a business cause that generate revenue so they can pay their bills and ultimately reinvest in their business. It often takes years, sometimes decades, to build a business to a point where it becomes truly sustainable. I can tell you story after story, and I kind of have in some of these podcasts that we've done over the last few months, where I recall the sacrifices my mother made when she was building her business. And she employed so many members of my family. She reinvested in the communities she was working in. Always. She supported her neighbors. She just had a big, giant heart. But at the same time, it was so hard for her so often. I recall, many, many years where she was clearly putting more of her money into the business than she was taking out of the business, where, at home, things were often very, very, very tight because she was working so hard to make sure her business was going to be successful. And that meant often paying her employees way before she paid herself. It meant that she was making investments in her business when she didn't always have the money to invest in her own home, her own family, even just the food in the fridge. But she did that for over 30 years, and she built a business that was reasonably successful at its peak. It never made her rich. She never got rich. She just found a way to make it work and survive. And at one point employed literally like over a couple dozen people in her business, which is pretty impressive. So today I have a very special guest, which is my mom. Her name's Linda. Linda, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful for me to be here with you.
So, Mom, I know your story, but a lot of people out there don't necessarily know your story. Why don't you start by telling us, what got you into business in the first place, and tell us a little bit about your business you ran?
Well, I guess it's all about mothers, because my mom had this dream of opening this store. She followed her dream and worked as I did, very, very hard. She was a hardworking lady and always felt that you can do whatever you put your mind to, and never gave up. So I joined the group in 1981. The store opened, and we really worked our butts off to get it off the ground. And we worked hard and started small. And as the years went by, we got a little bigger. I loved the small little neighborhood store, though I think going back, I wished maybe that's where we would have stayed. But all you want to do is get bigger and grow. And as you said, we started employing family, and then we got more staff. Staff were like family to us, mind you. And our little family got bigger and bigger. So we worked hard.
Now, and Mom, you had 3 kids. Your husband, my dad, was working a full-time job. It wasn't easy. How did you do that? How were you a business owner, building a business and juggling all those things?
I got to wonder myself sometimes, but worked long hours. I guess when your kids are little, they learn to come into the store, and you all worked. You all learned, you had jobs, and I think you enjoyed it. And I think all of you, because of learning how to work at a young age, that was part of your life. And I think all my kids do feel good at working hard and accomplishing whatever they can. So it was just a fact of life, a way of life, and we loved it.
One of the things that we want to do on this show is inspire the next entrepreneurs and those people who are here in Alberta. Alberta is going through a difficult time. That. We talk
Yes.
sometimes. You hear the stories about the challenges we've got in this province.
Absolutely.
What did you learn from entrepreneurship? And what lessons could you share with some of the audience?
I guess I was learning things all the time. We expanded into selling more and more things. We did everything. We sold a lot of dance shoes, dance wear. So you got involved with ordering for the fall when it's busy. And you always were pouring money into the business and trying to find new angles, like selling maternity clothes and dance wear and baby things. Babies need things all the time. So that obviously was a good place to be. But balancing your family life, like you say, with your work, that was tough. It really was tough. I worked long hours, sometimes 10 o'clock at night, start in the morning again at 8. That was what I did, but I loved it. So what did I learn? I don't know. Work, work hard.
Resilience sounds like you learned for sure. Because you were one of the most resilient people I've ever met in my life. I think back to many, many weeks where you were working every day, like 7 days a week. You worked morning, night. You just worked hard, and you didn't do it because you loved working. And I know you very, very well. You did it because you knew you had to do what had to be done to ends meet and to make sure the business survived.
And you keep expanding. You think, okay, we're only open until 5. Maybe we should open until 6. And then, as time goes by, you're open Saturdays because it's such a busy day. Well, maybe we should open Sunday as well. So we were open every day of the week. And during the week, we were open till 9 o'clock at night. So your time is always being busy and trying to think of new ideas and expand the business. You're always thinking of new ideas.
One of the things that always inspired me and what I witnessed firsthand is that when you were saying that your employees were they were like family, is so many times when you weren't generating the revenue or the profitability to continue to employ everyone, you never laid people off. You always would take less or put your own money back into the business to make sure they got paid before you did, because I think your commitment to them was just incredible, actually.
Yeah, we're still friends with a lot of them today. They're still like family. Yeah,
which is
I love them all.
Pretty amazing. And so I learned some lessons around hard work and what it takes to be successful. I know a lot of my career I spent really dedicating to helping other entrepreneurs be successful as possible. And it started with what I saw you do and accomplish, and I knew how hard it was. Do you want to share any stories about those moments where you almost gave up, or that you were thinking why am I doing this?
Yeah.
What kept you going?
I think it's, like I say, you just never want to give up. I think it's in part of me. My mom was the same. She never wanted to let go of an idea. And you always want to be successful. I think that's what it is. You keep putting yourself out there. And we were helping people too. They counted on us because the way we worked it is they brought their clothing, their toys. As children grow out of what they need bigger clothes. They need toys for older children. And always that recycling thing was in our minds, recycle for the future. And you bring things in good shape and you walk out with things that are, for tomorrow. And it worked well. It really did. And we were there for our customers because without us, they were suffering hard times too. As children are small, they need new things. And I think we felt like we were part of our community.
And some disclosure here. So you started your business in the 80s in Winnipeg, Manitoba. And it's funny, but there's a lot of parallels between the economic transition Manitoba went through in the 1980s and probably the 1990s as well. Manitoba was, believe it or not, a have province. If you go back to the early 70s, Winnipeg was considered the gateway to the West. I remember being very, very young, and when we were in Winnipeg, and we had family in Calgary, and Winnipeg was a bigger city. It was a big city than Calgary is. And it's funny that things have changed quite a bit, but Winnipeg had to go through a very difficult economic transition. A lot of people struggled. There was lots of unemployment, underemployment, things like that. And probably a lot of people here in Alberta could relate to that. And that's why you started your business at a time to help those people who had less, which was always inspiring to me too. Do you want to talk about, at one point you opened a second store.
Yes.
And how did that increase the complexity of running your business?
It was good because then we got a whole new area of customers. And it was a little difficult when I had to go and pitch in when the couple running that store had to go home for their holidays. I had to go in every day while they were gone. So made for a long drive and a long day, but it was interesting because I got to meet a whole bunch of new people, new customers, and it was really nice. I enjoyed it. I love the people part of it. It was good.
So one of the things you did do as well is you worked with your mom and your sister.
Absolutely.
So my grandmother and my aunt, and you worked with them every day. So it always amazed me you guys could get along so well, because and I love my brother and sister, Mom, I do, but I don't know if I could spend every single day with them. I know they couldn't spend it with me. I would drive them bananas. How did you do that? And if I think of family businesses, so many family businesses make it work. How'd you do it?
We just got along, and we always get along. I still live with my sister today, so we get along great. We love each other. My mom and my sister and I lived together for years here too. And I think we spend our time with each other, and we know how we think, and we just get along. Never had a problem with that. I'm very lucky, I feel. Very lucky.
So we're obviously a credit union. We do this show because we want to share stories with our members, with folks here in Alberta who are imagining what our future looks like. But banking's been a pretty difficult kind of business for small business. And I do remember one story, and I think this happened more than once, but I remember one particular instance where a fellow from one of the big banks, to be unnamed, came and did their annual visit with you. And I remember you were preparing for your meeting with this fellow, and you had a business plan put together. You were imagining, things you were going to do and to build your business. And I just remember you coming home that day and you were very not happy. And it took a lot to make my mom, who was one of the nicest people I've ever met, not happy. It was tough with the banks. If you could give advice to us as a credit union, how to treat entrepreneurs and business owners differently, what would you tell us?
That's a very good question. I think it's all part of the working hard, the ethics. I guess they have to look at you. And if you're prepared to work hard, like a lot of people these days are, they got to give a little more trust, maybe. It's putting themselves out on a limb, maybe, but that's what makes the world go round, is all the small businesses pulling together and making money and creating jobs. And so you need those small businesses. We all do. So I guess just giving them a chance.
And treating you like a person.
Yeah.
And not just a number and a transaction.
Sure. Being a little more personable, would help. Not just a number. Which
is certainly something we want to do at our credit union, for sure. Mm-hmm. So what do you miss about being in your business? What do you miss about, it sounds so hard. It sounds so almost miserable to a certain extent, like working ridiculous hours, doing whatever it takes to make things work, not making a lot of money.
Well, I guess I just miss the contact with customers and people and my employees. I miss them. I like being busy. I like working. So I try to keep busy at home now, but I'm retired. So my life is a lot different than it was before. And I just miss that association with people that I had. It was good. It was good. I miss that.
Is there any advice you would give to somebody who's thinking about following their dream and starting a business tomorrow, in terms of what to expect and what to be ready for and what's important?
Well, be prepared to work very hard, and don't ever give up. You have to keep chasing your dream and putting a lot of effort into it, and just climb yourself up and keep struggling. it'll work. If you work hard enough, it'll happen.
Wow.
I think.
And that's probably good advice for anybody. And here in Alberta, as we're kind of finding our new way forward, it's probably great advice for everyone. So, Mom, love you very much. Thank you for being on the show. And I think this is a first, definitely for us to have, my mom on the show. I can't thank you enough.
Oh, thank you for having me on the show. I enjoyed it very much. Nice meeting everyone, and nice seeing you again. Well,
Thanks. Yeah, actually, I haven't seen my mom. I haven't seen you since January 2020.
Yes,
so,
far too long.
Which normally at least every few months we'd find a way to connect.
Yeah, I miss you guys.
You too, Mom.
Next steps.
So it's a little bit surreal to have your mom on your show or come to work with you. Like, it's not the kind of thing I've ever done before in the last almost 30 years of my career. It was a pretty special moment because just hearing my mom talk, it reminded me of the values that I gathered from her, that I learned from her. The principles around hard work. Like, I never met anyone in my life who was as disciplined and as committed as my mom. Yet she was the most generous and caring and thoughtful person I've ever met as well. Like, I can't tell you how many days she would be up till like the wee hours of the morning to make sure things were done to help the kids with school. Yet she'd be back at work at 8 in the next morning, and she'd be working till late. And it's not about long hours, but often it was for her, because how she delivered value to her customers was often by the availability she made for them. You know what? Some of the lessons I learned from her over the years, which are little things, but are so important, are things like, if you want to see something happen, do something. And, it's funny, it's such a small thing, but I think about it all the time where I work, is that, we can't just sit back and wait for the world to change. If we want to see it happen, you just got to do it. Somebody's got to do it. So why don't you do it? And if it's not going to be you who does it, who is going to do it? And, over the years, how many times I witnessed her who had the least amount of time, the least amount of, quite frankly, resources, because most of her life, almost every penny she owned was invested in her business. She always found a way to make the resources happen, to make the time happen, to do something when it was important to her. And the courage she had every day to bet on herself, to bet on her family, to bet on the people she cared about in her business to become successful. These are learnings that I can't tell you how I would be in my life without. So on Mother's Day, it feels pretty special to have my own mom on the show. And, when I think of learnings for Alberta and for all of us, and we're thinking about this next decade of change and transition in Alberta, and certainly there's going to be moments where it feels like a struggle. What I learned from my mom is often, happiness and that sense of worth and value, and the learnings come from the struggle. The easy times, the fun times weren't where we made things change and we made things better. It was the struggle that made things better. And sometimes when it's feeling that way, maybe, it maybe sounds like a silver lining kind of statement, but when it feels tough, maybe that's because we're just getting to the good stuff. So with that, happy Mother's Day to every mother out there. Certainly happy Mother's Day to my wife, to all of the wonderful women in this world who have made this world a better place. And with that, if you like what you heard today, share it with your network. Be sure to subscribe. And thank you for listening. We'll see you next time on What's Next Alberta.